Thank you. Hi, I'm Isaac, and with me is Ishan, and we are going to discuss about MedQGraph. We are graduate students from Northeastern University.
Yeah, myself, Ishan. We'll be looking at the challenges with current EHRs and the limitations of the existing methods. To begin, let's understand the problem we are trying to address. In the US, patients face increasingly long delays for scheduling appointments. Hospitals are also experiencing slow lab turnaround times, which cost nearly 7,500 per minute in operational loss. On top of that, 96% of hospitals report EHR downtime incidents every year, which disrupts care and delay decision making. The market for AI powered EHR solutions is growing rapidly, projected to reach $33 billion by 2026. Yet, many existing systems still rely on disconnected, rigid, tabular structures. So, the need for smarter, connected healthcare data systems has never been clearer. Why do conventional EHR struggle? Let's look at that next. Traditional hospital systems depend on a complex web of services, APIs, DNS, networking layers, security protocols. If even one of them fails, everything goes down. More importantly, conventional databases store information in rigid tables. But healthcare data isn't rigid. It's highly interconnected. A single patient must may have like multiple admissions, diagnoses, medications, labs, and procedures that involve over time. Retrieving this information becomes slow and requires manual navigation through fragmented records. Knowledge graph solves this by representing medical data as interconnected, temporal, and queryable structures. So before building our knowledge graph, we first need to understand the data source that brings us to the next slide. This slide highlights two categories of data sources. First, enterprise EHR systems like Oracle, Cerner, Athena Health, and Epic. We didn't ingest these in our implementation, but we show them here because these are the systems real hospitals use. They store diagnosis, labs, medications, imaging, and scheduling and billing data. Everything we would eventually want to unify in a production grade system. For our actual project, we use MIMIC-IV, a large publicly available ICU dataset. It includes structure fields like admissions, vitals, labs, medications, procedures, and ICU timelines, covering about 3 lakh encounters or 300K encounters. This dataset allows us to build a reliable temporal knowledge graph using real clinical events. Now, let's see how Neo4j becomes the foundation for an AI-powered EHR environment. We use Neo4j AuraDB as our main graph database. It's serverless, offers zero downtime, and is ideal for building a medical knowledge graph that needs to be constantly online. Neo4j GDS, the graph data science suite, help us generate vector embeddings and integrate LLM-powered retrieval. Together, they enable us to store clinical entities, model temporal relationships, and run intelligent queries efficiently. So here, to generate the knowledge graph, we use GPT-4o to process unstructured clinical transcripts. It extracts meaningful medical entities such as diagnoses, medications, test symptoms, and identifies how they relate to each other over time. These extracted elements are then mapped into Neo4j as nodes and relationships, forming the backbone of our temporal medical knowledge graph. Once the KG is created, we can connect to it and run powerful clinical queries. So the next step is connecting to the Neo4j Aura instance and actually retrieving meaningful clinical insights. We use the official Neo4j Python driver to establish a secure session with the database. From there, we execute custom Cypher queries that let us navigate the patient journey in a very intuitive way. For example, We can pull a patient's complete medical history with a single query, something that traditionally requires clicking through multiple EHR screens. We can trace all the patient's admissions, link them to diagnosis, and follow how their conditions evolve over time. We can also combine different clinical entities like tests, lab results, procedures, and prescriptions, and understand how they relate chronologically. Because the data is stored as a graph, relationships are first class citizens. So instead of scanning huge tables, we simply traverse the graph to get answers. This means clinicians and backend systems can run very complex multi hop queries and still get results in milliseconds. This turns the graph into a reasoning engine, not just a database, enabling intelligent, context aware retrieval that traditional EHR systems simply can't provide. And now that we can query graph efficiently, the next question is what does this enable to a functional level?
So yeah, there is a need for developing an advanced analytical tool that can uh, help researchers and hospitals to understand electronic health records more efficiently. Apart from using simple rag brace approach, we approach this problem using a rag plus or like a knowledge graph rag plus uh, the data sources available. So we developed MedQGraph with the temporal medical knowledge graph backbone that enables the analysis of electronic health records. So, for example, if you had to focus on one aspect of an electronic health record, be it radiology or be it pharmaceutical, we will be able to pick that one particular domain and analyze it more and the data surrounding that particular aspect. That is possible only because of the complex relationships that we were able to define in a knowledge graph. So we have also implemented an automated inbound and outbound calling services using voice agents uh, to identify incoming patient identifiers that can help us match with the patient records. That also goes on to providing some summarization or clinical notes for hospitals and doctors for quicker and advanced analysis. And downtime avoidance is enabled through the 0% downtime available on Neo4j databases. And appointment scheduling and management is also made, which helps us with saving costs and improving revenue and saving a lot of lives as well. And there's also need for languages, different languages in EHR systems, which provides a global framework where different people, hospitals from different regions can use the software. So here is a simple ontology of the medical transcript. So it has different information like patient demographics, hospital admission details, diagnosis and severity, laboratory test results, medical procedures and treatment. So using this information to map an incoming data or electronic health record can help us create a complex structure where we'll be able to transfer and understand the information much better. So here we developed a custom temporal medical knowledge graph using certain number of nodes and relationships that were present in the previous ontology, like the columns such as patient admission, diagnosis, medication, and tests. And in the relationship, you can see that we have defined had admission, had been diagnosed with, prescribed and underwent test, and so on. So as a result, this pipeline can help us automatically transform raw clinical tables into a structural temporal medical knowledge graph that can help us understand the historical patient information much better and ask more advanced questions that is not visible in the normal database. So given that we moved on to like building an agentic mode software where we wanted to uh, allow the user to ask questions in natural language and retrieve the results just like that. So we implemented agents and we allowed for the cipher query generation where we told the LLM model, saying that it's an expert in Neo4j and writing cipher queries, and we gave it certain instructions giving the schema description and the nodes and relationships, and along with an input query asking it to generate a cipher query. This cipher query helps us to pull the information from the Neo4j Aura database and then produce clinical summaries or notes that can help doctors and other clinicians to make better decisions. So here is a a prompt that we also gave to generate accurate clinical notes, which gives the query as well as the formatted results that were retrieved from the cipher query to give a much better summary of any questions that's been asked with a certain patient with a certain ID. And the recommendations, like for example, if you ask one question and you have like several other questions that are coming up, we were able to retrieve like feed the previous information like the previous query to give us better recommendations to follow up more questions and ask more intricate questions that cannot be simply asked in a SQL based system. So here is a simple construction or a architecture of our system, and it is a very high level architecture where we upload the transcript and it is sent to the Neo4j database to construct a knowledge graph, which is our temporal medical knowledge graph. We define the nodes and relationships based on a normalized mapping that helps us map the electronic health record to our particular defined structure, and then we use network X to visualize, and then we use the vector embeddings for the query generation and also retrieval and then summarization and recommendation. We also made sure security and compliance are at most, because it is one of the most important aspects of like maintaining the privacy and security of hospital data. So our the current phase that we are working on is to build a realistic and a valuable system where we are trying to scale the current prototype or the product to a large scale uh, system where hospitals and like independent clinics can actively use by ingesting data from multiple vendors, like for example Oracle Cerner, Epic, Athena Health, and using that data to build a temporal medical knowledge graph that can help us like ask questions and basically like Q&A for healthcare clinics. So we are trying to use connectors or ingestors or APIs from different vendors, and we are trying to use real-time CDC such as Kafka, and we are trying to map or normalize the incoming data to a certain common clinical model, and using normalized vocabularies like for example SNOMED, CT, and RX norm. And we are trying to use entity matching for patient uh, deduplication, which is like there might be duplicate records available in different electronic health records. So we are trying to use probabilistic matching, weighted attributes, and fuzzy matching to keep confidence scores and have a good retrieval process. And then storage and index, obviously we use Neo4j database for the entities with temporal edges, and then the query layer maps the natural language to like graph queries or ciphers. So at last, we are going to discuss about the security and governance, which is the utmost important when it comes to building a software that is used in hospitals and independent clinics. We will be trying to implement several security measures, authentication measures, and authorization measures that can help uh, like only the particular users to access the particular software and the data available in the software. And then some challenges that we would face is this semantic heterogeneity, that different schemas, terminologies used in different electronic health records. We should make sure that the information is being normalized so to a certain uh, standard, and the record linkage as well. It's mostly non-trivial, and there is a latency issue, latency versus consistency. We should make sure that the speed is at most, So there should be very minimal downtime, which can help us like improve the return on investment, like cost and like the revenue. The revenue should be better. And then securing agreements and defining compliance plans. We should make sure we follow the compliance plans. And then finally, scaling and productionizing, to mention do like make sure there is a high availability, monitoring and secure hosting, along with continuous validation for clinical QA, with like clinicians and hospitals to make sure everything is right. So these are some of the things that we have been doing with developing MedQGraph as a whole, and we are actively working on uh, like distributing the software to different hospitals and independent clinics. And that is all from me and Ishan. Thank you everyone for listening. Uh, if you have any questions, then I would be happy to answer them.